Guys, I have a treat for you this week. The garden has absolutely thrived this year, and I can't wait to show you. Let's go! So this sector of the garden, or this vignette, came out absolutely beautiful this year, so I just have to start here. As you can see, this is sort of the main tropical or subtropical section of the garden, and I think I did a lot better with layering plants this year. So that's something to talk about in the future, is a whole video on layering plants. It can be a little bit more difficult with subtropicals because, like in the case of this Musa velutina here, I wasn't really sure how big it would get. And that's really kind of the case with a lot of these plants. I mean, like the calla lily here, this white giant, I know how big that guy is going to get, more or less. I think that this dwarf banana here, this Musa velutina, absolutely steals the show. Now you can see it has suffered a little bit of a light frost, which you can really see on the underside of the leaf for some reason. It must have been new, and not exactly sure, but yeah, so we have had a light frost. It's currently mid-October, and this banana plant here has just absolutely thrived. So this banana plant was probably about the size of, actually more like this pup here, and when I got it in the spring, and it had really just sort of the main two stalks or pseudostems. And so as you can see, it has absolutely thrived in this clay-based soil. Now, of course, you look at the ground now and you can see that it's heavily amended. It's basically like a forest floor, like a jungle floor. Any of these banana leaves that I've cut off, I just will chop and drop. And that, of course, will take all these nutrients in these leaves and give it back to the plant and feed the soil and so on and so forth. All that organic gardening goodness. But just check out how many pups this plant has produced. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. Such a cliffhanger, but guys, if you could do me a quick favor, over 90% of people who watch my channel are not subscribed. If you get value out of this content, it would absolutely mean the world to me for you to subscribe, and truly does help out the channel. So if you like all this stuff, be sure to smash that subscribe button and tap the bell.
I haven't got anything to point at.
Y'all know the drill. Let's get back to the video. Another plant in this vignette that is absolutely thriving is this hardy heliconia. So now, hang on. So hardiness is like different in different areas. This is listed as hardy to zone 7B, 8A. So like the zone map is a great place to start, and some plants are going to do better than others. It really just depends on how long a plant can stay dormant. Now, even though this hardy heliconia is theoretically, it's possible that it can overwinter, I actually want to see this flower. Most of which is because when I bought this, it was actually a teeny tiny little starter plant and just a chunk of rhizome, and I've never actually seen it flower. So I want to confirm that it is what the seller, told me that it is. Because if it's like some other type of tropical heliconia and I subject it to cold, then obviously it's not going to fare too well. And this French lace Weigelia is sort of almost growing as a vine, which I'm sure the heliconia actually likes because it actually wants a little bit of shade, which is something that I learned this year. But I have never seen this plant. I've had it for probably 3 or 4 years, and I've never seen it this big, this beautiful. So just absolutely spectacular. I absolutely chalk that up to the soil and probably also the amount of water that I've given it. It's been a very dry summer, but I have been irrigating sort of like flood irrigation. So what I'll do is when I water, I will absolutely drench the area and almost have water standing. Absolutely stunning. And so the honeybees are still active, so I'm probably going to be upsetting some pollinators moving around this salvia, but I think they'll be okay. These are hardy orchids, and so this is a plant that blooms in the spring. This is called Blatilla striata, and this one is actually a species. I do have others that are hybrids and even more buried, which is really exactly what they want. So this sector of jungle, believe it or not, in spring is mostly open. So I do have like the background plants like the evergreen magnolia and the bamboo that of course stay green all year, along with a couple other broadleaf evergreen shrubs mixed in. But most of these plants die to the ground and they grow back with unreal vigor. Like really guys, it's just unbelievable to watch these plants grow, especially like on a hot day in July. You can watch banana plants grow like, I mean, and that's not unlike bamboo in the spring too. The myths are, the legend of how fast bamboo grows is real, even here in Western New York. So these orchids here, actually they like having this sort of change in sunlight throughout the year. So in spring, these three plants here, there's a clump here that's totally just swallowed. And then this is a different variety. And then this is a different variety here too. And these guys want to have full sun in spring. As the summer progresses, it gets hotter, the sun angle gets more intense. They want to have a little bit of shade. So this setting here is absolutely perfect. And of course, like the leaves of these plants are just absolutely, I mean, now they're starting to look a little tired. We have had some cold nights, but the good thing about Western New York is we don't get like drastic temp swings really. So plants just know to start to go dormant this time of year in mid-October. And they don't really suffer too much for it as long as we get the rainfall, which we're starting to. This elephant ear has been pretty focal probably the whole time. This one is called Pharaoh's Dream, and it's supposed to be a hardy elephant ear, which is amazing because as it continues to mature, it's gonna have this coloration develop even more on the veins and really almost look like Philodendron gloriosum. The fact that that even has hardiness potential is incredible. Bursting up right next to it is this beautiful white butterfly ginger. And so this year it actually hasn't bloomed as much as it did last year. It's been a strange year as far as with plants flowering. So this guy is normally in full bloom in mid-September and mid to late. And here it is mid-October, and I've really only had like 3 flower stalks or 3, all of my hort peeps. Tell me what that flower arrangement's called. Yeah. Anyway, 3 flower clusters have opened, as opposed to the whole plant being covered in and having that gorgeous fragrance just absolutely fill the whole space. It's absolutely incredible. Of course, my agapanthus here, these are really nice blue flowering plants, and it is almost a true blue flower. I actually really like agapanthus. Everyone uses Stella d'Oro daylilies, and you know, those are fine. They're nice plants, they're hardy, but you know, they're kind of vanilla. And this is a great alternative, mostly because they don't get all that dead foliage mixed in with all the good stuff. These guys look great, like really fantastic, really up until a hard frost. At which point I do nothing. I let them go dormant naturally, and they come back bigger, better, fuller in the spring. Of course, it's really impressive to see these agapanthus start to overshadow this hardy palm here. This guy is a needle palm, and so I was dumb when I planted this first. You're supposed to protect them, sort of like just put like a shrub cover over them for the first couple years they're in the ground. And I'm like, I don't need to do that. Well, the mother plant on this, which was about probably 4 feet tall or so, died, and now these are actually the pups. So just like a banana sends off offshoots. Considering that it's only been in the ground since 2022, this is absolutely amazing as far as the growth. Like, it's really starting to have a presence, and needle palms do need that heat, that hot summer to get going, and then once they get going, they do really well, which I have to say is unlike the sable minor. This is a palm, beautiful. They're different than the needle palm. As far as their hardiness, like I would say sable minors, and you'll have to go check out my palm video to go see sort of the different characteristics on hardy palm. This is a nice little vignette here that really has interest from March with the crocuses, starting with the crocuses, and it goes all the way through most of the year. This year I decided to put some bedding begonias in there, which are nice. I have always been dealing with this bindweed way. So the begonias are my annual that I plant in the front. And behind the begonias, but these are called bada bing begonias, which I just love saying that. I mean, I actually partially planted them because of the name. Behind that is an evergreen plant. This is called Liriope Super Blue. And so this is a great, it's not, so with Liriope, there's, just like with bamboo, there's two types. There's a Liriope spicata, and that's going to spread somewhat vigorously and sort of not really form nice clumps. And then there's the clumping types, which is Liriope muscari, and that's what Super Blue is a form of. This, believe it or not, is a different plant. This is another type of agapanthus, and of course this remnant flower head gave it away. This guy actually rebloomed a couple times for me. So like their original flower stalks would probably be, you know, maybe like about this tall. So maybe like, that doesn't mean anything to you guys, probably about like 3 feet tall. The reblooms were a lot shorter, which was interesting. Another plant that'll eventually be the focal point as it matures is this young Sable Minor McCurtain. So this guy here is, and then there's this, I know I planted this, but I have no idea what it is. And it has this like golf ball purpley thing that's like spiky kind of. I think it's an onion relative, but I just have absolutely no idea. But it's kind of cool. So this sable palm, as of this year, has started to put out its mature fronds, which is really cool. This is an evergreen, and this variety is different than the one that I showed you a little while ago. This is actually a hardier ecotype than the species. And it's great because I don't have to do any covering with the shrub covers or anything. I just put snow on it, really, and that's enough. So another thing I had mentioned with the hardy orchids, this is actually a yellow flowering type. A little bit less hardy than the purples, but it blooms for longer, like a lot longer. Great plant, interesting seed pods. It's kind of a shame that I can't really see these tropicals too much being behind the grill, but this is a nice little area that, you know, of course I have my pygmy date palm, which all of these tropicals, these are not hardy tropicals for the most part. They're all gonna come inside as it starts to really cool off. Sort of with the exception of this windmill palm. Now this guy here, so this guy here is a commemorative plant. The cultivar name is Taylor, which my grandmother's maiden name was Taylor. She's no longer with us. So windmill palms, while they are hardy, I don't really push this one too much. I do let it get plenty of frosts and even light freezes, but I don't push that one just because it is a commemorative plant. And of course, underplanted with this Trachycarpus is different types of snapdragons. These all came back from seed, so they're probably not really a cultivar anymore. And then another Liriope here, but it's variegated. And then of course here I have various types of Echeveria, which, as I'm sure many of you are annoyed by as well, I have no idea what the cultivar names are because it's just assorted succulent. And then this container is mostly succulent-y things. So like I've got a mangave, I've got an aloe vera, and then some hardy sedum. And then sort of in the shade of the palm tree, I have this Thomatophyllum stenolobum. I was watching another tropical plant YouTuber that they had one of these in a tour. And I absolutely had to have one. Amazingly, one of my friends who is a plant shop owner had one of these that they've had for a while. And so swinging this way here, at some point this will be a hedge of Skip Laurels. So I actually have a separate video on Skip Laurels that I will link in the description, but these are great plants for sort of like half a day of sun. These are getting too much sun, so they look a little bit off color, like they should be this really nice dark green. But Skip Laurels are great because if you have deer problems, these are fully deer resistant. And I don't even think I can say for now, I think they're gonna stay deer resistant. Of course, the young mimosa. This guy hasn't grown as much as the other mimosa that I have, but it is still a beautiful plant, and the leaves do close at night. And then I showed you the Sable Minor, which this guy is absolutely beautiful. I wish that it would put out that second frond, especially from the cold winter standpoint. Like why it's not just gonna like fully open that frond instead of having a half damaged, whatever. It's besides the point. And this sector here, this vignette here is kind of a jungle.
A jungle? You don't say!
So this giant plant here, this is actually a type of hardy ginger, and not like the ones that when you Google hardy ginger, this is actually a relative of the culinary ginger. As you can see, it's also a variegated plant. And so this guy here has been in the ground since 2022, and it was in probably, if I remember, like a 5-gallon container. So it has really gone nuts, and I love how this looks. I'm actually gonna have to dig up probably all of these plants here and move them to another spot and let this guy just continue to go bonkers. How amazing that would be to just have this just fill up a area as big as it wants to take. Of course, there's the water feature, the waterfall beyond, so that's gonna be, so obviously I will have to start doing some dividing in time, but for the time being, for a couple of years, it's gonna be able to spread as much as it wants. Again, it's asterisk within reason, but y'all know what I mean. So this here is my volunteer pussy willow, and I'm gonna transplant. This is one of the first things you see when you enter the garden. So I really want to have a clump of hardy bananas like the giant ones, Musabastu, that grow, 15, 18 feet tall. But if you have a question of what plant is here that you want to know what it is, just drop a timestamp in the comments and I'll get back to you. So this is the start to my new goldfish pond. That's actually the filter right there. So that's one of the things I love about Aquascape, is that they make all of the components, like the guts of the water feature, be absolutely beautiful. And just one of the most incredible things about water features, is that you can already see that the biofilm, like nature is already starting to take hold and like just colonize this pond with life. Like it's very much an installation. Like saying that we install plants is probably wrong because plants are living. This, we're installing pipe and plumbing and gluing stuff and rocks, and so it's very much an installation at the time when you do it. But we then allow, with an ecosystem pond, you sort of allow life to take hold. And I'm loving this waterfall. You can see that I still do have some detail work. Just imagine that this has like, softball sized cobbles right there, and then it's going to be full of more grassy plants like the liriope there. And then of course here's the pond. So I'm sort of trying to bridge the gap between a contemporary pond and a natural body of water that looks like, something you would see in the forest. So here you can see this unilock wall that is serving as kind of the main drop-off point. This is a perfect pond for frogs and turtles because it has this wide marginal terrace that's shallow. It's probably only like maybe ankle deep. And frogs and turtles love to hang out in that sort of riparian zone. I think the pot is kind of out of scale. This pond, it sort of eats up too much shelf space, so I'll probably end up pulling that out. Even though I love how that looks, I'm probably gonna either replace it with a smaller container or just I'll do rock work and sort of naturalize it that way. You'll have to come back to the channel next spring with this beautiful Detective Erica water lily. This pond here is about probably like, probably do a separate video on this in the future, but it's a small pond. It's too small for koi. Although it is deep enough, for the most part, it is too small for koi, being about like 7 by 12-ish. And again, in time, you just won't even see any soil here. It's going to be all of this dwarf mondo grass. This is more liriope. Because it's such a small pond and I'm going to have such botanical diversity with the aquatic plants, I wanted to have a lot of consistency in the design with the mondo, the liriope, and plants like that around the edge of the pond. Just so that, like when I have the bold tropical foliage of water canna or some elephant ears that'll be planted along the back edge, those are going to be focal, and the liriopes are going to be great to sort of tie everything together. And then of course this is my skimmer. So this is the mechanical filter in this pond, and you can see that this fake rock lid is absolutely perfect for hiding that. And as this although this is plastic, believe it or not, when it's in the environment all the time, it will age and sort of get like algae and things that grow on it. And this is the original water feature that I installed back in 2023. But, hopefully through water feature artistry, it looks as though it's a cohesive feature. And so this vignette is really cool. I have a new shrub from Proven Winners called El Nino. So this is a cross between a catalpa and this is a new hybrid shrub, very drought tolerant, and it's true that it's absolutely very drought tolerant because it's been a very dry summer. I've been dragging a water hose to basically all the other plants except for this. And I mean, granted, again, roots want to find nutrients and water. So the banana here has been getting a lot of water because it's a banana, but this guy probably was getting irrigated more than I think, but I never actually like set the water hose there to irrigate it. And I mean, it grew 2 feet and it looks beautiful. And this is a young shrub, so I would not expect a huge floral show. I don't know why that was so hard to say, just yet. So another area that just came out absolutely beautiful this year is this area that I redid in late July. When I first moved in, I planted a bunch of elderberry cuttings, which I love native plants. It's absolutely necessary to, support your local ecology, and native plants are essential to do that. But I gave these elderberry cuttings really a solid 2 or 3 years, and they just looked like crap. So I yanked them. And the funny thing is I have them at my parents' house and they thrive. Here, I just, they grew out more than tall, which again, I just don't really understand what the deal is with that. So long story long, the elderberries came out, and here I have a beautiful tropical menagerie. So these are a couple different types of cannas. This one I actually got from a friend, and so I love the deep red flowers on. Great variety. It's an old variety. Couldn't tell you the name, but you see these planted around a fair amount. I think nationwide, actually. Drop it in the comments if you've seen this canna in your area. This one's actually done very well. This is called panache, and this is a plant that I did purchase, but it's great. Cannas are wonderful because you buy one little piece, and very quickly, if you're watering and putting them in healthy soil, they multiply. I have never seen crocosmia bloom in October before. It's been strange, but yeah, I'm absolutely happy to see it. And then I have a lot of potted plants here that I should have cleaned up before starting to film, but we have, as you can see with this elephant ear, we have had enough of a light frost to start to make me want to document the garden before it actually gets too cold and then y'all can't see how beautiful it was this year. But I just love how this border has come out this year. Got the Pharaoh's Mask Colocasia, which again, it's said to be hardy. Not gonna test it because it's not really in a great microclimate, so it's probably not it's probably not a good idea to test it. Got a black and bloom, whatever it's called, tender salvia that never made it into the ground. And yeah, you can see that the leaves are pretty yellow and unhappy. This is waterfall foam on my fingers. If you go check out my video about how to build natural looking waterfalls. And next year I'm going to show you guys how gorgeous this plant is. This is another old variety of canna that is not in cultivation for some crazy reason. I don't know why. And if it is, oftentimes you see it has canna virus, and then you got a nice little clumping bamboo here. This guy is a wonderful plant. I am surprised at how well it's doing in full sun, because this is always traditionally, I've always thought of Fargesias as being shade plants, but Tim over in the Hudson Valley has these growing in full sun, I believe, too. And yeah, I mean, they're amazing. So sometimes plants don't read their own tags. It is a clumping bamboo. So on that note, I know you're going to be like, oh, it's a bamboo and it's going to run. This does clump. It is not going to spread aggressively like some of the others that I have. So now if we transition into some bamboos that do run and do need some manual control. You can see here that the bamboo hedge is doing absolutely phenomenal. There's a couple different varieties planted in here. Mostly it's Philostachys spectabilis. This is actually a Philostachys nuda, and then there's also a yellow groove or Philostachys sulcata, so nuda is technically like a timber bamboo, but the sulcata types are a bit more of an edible shoot type. Technically all bamboos are edible, but some need to be cooked for longer and some taste better than others. And then you can see that the jungle area is looking, well, jungly. So it's really interesting the difference between, I have a sumac in the front yard that's basically in full fall color, and this sumac here that gets more water and is in more of a woodland environment, I should say more irrigation, and is in kind of a woodland environment, has really barely started to go into fall color. I mean, more so in the last week, but definitely is interesting how water or lack thereof, really is a stressor on plants. And then of course you can see the beautiful giant miscanthus blowing around in the wind. I think these grasses are really cool to be used in a privacy hedge type setting. So this is another type of timber bamboo. This is one that's going to be grown more for its wood. This is called Philostachys atrovaginata. And this guy here you can tell is a running bamboo. I haven't done any rhizome maintenance, and so you can see that this here is a rhizome. So like when you're at the nursery, guys, if you don't go by the Latin name, you want to look for these in the pot. If you're looking for a clumping bamboo, if you see anything that looks like this, I'll actually show you a dry clumping bamboo rhizome. Okay, so you can see here, obviously these samples are dead. And so you can see that, like, if you imagine this as a living plant, like this is the stem, and all of these sort of little nubbins that go up would be another stem. So the running types, they produce these long runners like this.
And it's cold.
And so you can see that the structure, the actual physical rhizome, is completely different. Now, there are some clumping bamboos that can spread quickly, but none of the ones that are like really cold hardy or commonly grown have that trait. And one of the reasons I'm not a fan of rhizome barriers, because and running bamboos will do this too, is you can see that this one has its rhizomes growing straight down as opposed to being shallow or even surface level in the soil. But this is a bamboo rhizome, and that's how you know it's a running type. All running types have a rhizome that's similar to this. And then of course you can see more rhizomes here, another one here, and all you have to do is chop these off with a spade. It's really not complex. So like all of these rhizomes that are sort of eating this area will be cut back probably to right about here. And the advantage to the running type bamboos is that they always, in a colder climate, they're always going to grow taller than the clumping types. So if you wanted to have a bamboo grove that you can really feel immersed in and really sort of cool off the area, running types are fantastic for that. Another plant that's just absolutely beautiful this year that I planted in April, but I've had at my parents' house for years and years, since about 2016, is this beautiful Colocasia galligongensis. And I know to many this will just look like a green Colocasia, like just a green elephant ear, but besides the hardiness potential, what I love about it is sort of that big, the Hawaiians, I believe, call this a pico, so that big, splotch of dark sort of burgundy color there. And the other thing I love about this plant, which it's more pronounced, as you can see, we've had a light frost. Elephant ears are very susceptible to frost, so you can see that it was very light and fleeting, which is good, because I'm not ready to see this guy go to sleep yet. But the back of the leaf here has this wonderful piece of it almost looks like ink on. It's kind of faded now because again all the energy is starting to go downstairs, so to speak. But in the summer, the new leaves have this beautiful, almost like a ballpoint pen just drew a line on that. And then of course it's really subtle color. That's one of the things I love about this elephant ear. And in the spring, if you do want dramatic color, they emerge looking just like Colocasia illustris, and they fade over time. I would not be able to wrap up this garden tour without showing off this beautiful needle palm, which has been in the ground now for about 2 years. And this was originally in a different spot, and it got transplanted here after a nasty spear pull. It has recovered from that absolutely beautifully, and I love the delicate leaves. And I mean, really, it's like this leaf here is starting to get really big, and not just finely divided pinnae, but also a big leaf, which is just absolutely incredible to witness. Again, needle palms need the heat to get going, but once they do get going, they do very well here in Western New York once they're established. This is probably a better example. You can see what I mean when I talk about suckers or pups. And so you can see that that's the mother plant there. And then what it does is it'll send off offshoots. And a lot of times in the north, what happens with needle palms is the mother plant will die and these pups will take over. And if they're happy, this can actually happen a lot quicker than you'd think, as you can sort of look back to the other needle palm that I showed you that very thing happened. I hope that that never happens with this, because it is a setback. But oh, and the other reason too why they call it needle palm, so you can see that there's all of these needles around the crown, and what that really does is it protects this plant from browsing herbivorous pests that want to eat the tender shoot. If you guys have ever had heart of palm, that's not coming from this plant, but all palms have heart of palm, so to speak. Really, it is hard to believe that this is a hardy plant.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to know down in the comments if y'all are also having plants bloom later and do funky things. If you like this video, be sure to drop me a big ol' thumbs up, just like this. Thumbs up for thumb holes. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Peace.